Preston's work and God, I think like legacy, this word legacy has been like coming up constantly for me and for us at Art Southeast, and the show I think is kind of exemplifies that in an exciting way. I moved here in 2018, so I have not been here for very long. But early on in my being here, I was introduced to Preston's work through a piece that he submitted to a small group show that we had here. That was probably like 21, I think, right? Early on in my working here. But I remember just being kind of like baffled by the piece and intrigued by it, and it stuck with me. And then I think a year later, we did another show, and I think Preston had passed then. And we showed this beautiful piece of his work that I think, Mary, you gave us from your personal collection at the time. And I really was like, what is this? This artist is so interesting. The first piece that I saw was like a sculpture. The next piece was one of these, similar to what you see on the walls here. And I think then a year later, I was just like, Mary, I gotta see more of this work. And we went over to Mary's place, and in her storage unit, she has like an entire body of work by this artist that I, had just been coming to know. And not only just like an entire body of work, but amazing work. And it was just an incredible thing to come upon. And so that was, several years ago. We've been talking about putting this show together since that time. So it's very exciting to be able to show it now and to be able to present all of this kind of gorgeous work to all of you. Some of you probably were very familiar with Preston, and some of you maybe not so much. But I just kind of wanted to start this kind of group panel discussion by asking each of these generous panelists to introduce yourselves and maybe tell about what your relationship was with Preston or Preston's work. And Mary, would you mind if we started with you?
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Oh gosh, I feel like I'm more of a friend than a coworker of Preston's, and sometimes the lines get blurred, and I'm not always as able to be objective about his work. So I so appreciate hearing what others have to say. And I'm a painter, and Preston and I were in school together, in graduate school. I met him in 1996 on the steps of Henry Hall, when John Parker offered us a cigarette, when cigarettes were a thing. I feel like I never didn't know him, and he was sort of family from the beginning, and admired his work, admired the man, miss him so much, like a lot of people in the room. Yeah. I'm really grateful to have his work up and people's eyes on it, people taking it home, and I'm just awfully thankful that we're talking about Preston Orr.
Lily Conneff.
Hi, I'm Lily Kate. I live in Atlanta, and I am the executive assistant to the owner of Jackson Fine Art, so I'm in for the weekend for this. But I first I never met Preston actually. So I first encountered his work at the dining room table of my best friend's house. Her mom had two pieces by Preston. That one right there is actually the one that is on loan, and that's the one that I remember looking at, and I was just so in awe of it. I didn't understand how it could be so thin on the side, but have such a layered depth to it, and it never left me. And I, for many years after, was looking for his work, and I think I asked Susan about where I could find it at one point, and then I asked Marcus, and Marcus put me in touch with Mary, and Mary took me to the storage unit, and I was like, this is the spot. So, I feel so honored to have been so touched by this work, but not know someone, not know the artist.
Yeah, I'll say your enthusiasm about the work when we had his work up at that smaller show really helped to like solidify for me. You and a few other people that were coming in saying, this is really incredible work. And I was like, okay, well, my intuition about it is feeling more on, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Deb?
Well, I met Mary and Preston around the same time, and I'm a late bloomer Savannah as well. I mean, I'm recent, 20 years ago recent now, but still that's recent for Savannah, right? And it, you know how they say that genius is not recognized at home, or, you know, it's not that I didn't understand how brilliant Preston was, but I loved him as a human being and a trickster and a jokester. And so that was how I fell for him as a dear friend. And you know, I'd never really seen so much of his work up like this. I would see his work in his house, but you know, it would be like horsing around when we were together. Not even serious art talk, because this was when we were off duty. You know, so I'm it's an interesting thing to recognize his genius after he passed, when I loved him so dearly when he was alive as a human being.
I love his off-duty moments. Marcus, Kenney?
So I moved to Savannah in '95, and you know, as a young artist, and I remember hearing whispers about Preston Orr even at that time. And Preston, I always said Preston was like Picasso in Savannah. He was like the artist in this town. And you know, Preston was my brother. I'm sorry, this is kind of emotional, but like most brothers, you know, Preston and I had a love-hate relationship with each other. We would fight, make up, and hang out, and get mad at each other. And I think we had a healthy work relationship where we were competitive with each other with our art, and we had shows together. We had a show together in Columbus, Georgia, and multiple shows around town. And I was curating a gallery just a few blocks from here. Some of you old-timers remember Gallery 28. But I put together a show for Preston. I think probably one of the first shows he had in Savannah, of just solo work. And the show is called Whiter Than Snow. But yeah, he's missed, and I think, like what you were saying, it's easy to just be aware of, you know, each other's work in this town, and there's so many talented and wonderful artists, and it's kind of, you know, I don't know, it's sad to have to recognize Preston's genius after he's gone, but seeing all this together, it's really, you know, thank everybody that was involved with doing this, and I know Preston's happy right now, so.
In a snarky way.
I wore this just to piss Preston off. As you can tell, he did not like color. And so I was like, I'm gonna wear this bright square.
Good choice. Good choice. Well, I want to, you know, I was talking to Marcus, I was talking to you the other day about the 90s in Savannah's art scene in maybe the early 2000s. And I was wondering if, I think that's, you know, I know this period of time, of course, that I'm living in, but I missed all of that. And I'm wondering if you all would be willing to share some kind of thoughts about that time, and kind of maybe help to put us all in a place where we can see when this was kind of emerging. Maybe we can start with
Yeah,
you.
I mean, it was a different Savannah. I mean, I feel like I've lived in maybe 4 different Savannahs over the past years. But it was, you know, we had a tight-knit group of artists that were working together. And back then, studios were readily available and spaces were available, so we were having shows and experimenting and just really, it felt like the future was bright. And I don't know.
Keep hearing about like the meat and these other kind of spaces and the places where Preston was like making some of this work. How much of that then seems to make its way into the work?
When I shared a studio with Preston, we were on Broughton Street, and I think it's where Vineyard Vines, is that still here?
Oh,
It is? Okay, it was that building. We had 5 floors, and each of us, does anybody remember that?
Absolutely.
How many artists were in 5 floors?
Well, me, Preston, Zachariah Vincent, Melinda was there for a minute, Jane. Is that it? Jane? Julio. Garcia. But we were, you know, it was Monica Cook, some of you remember her name, Scott Griffin, Preston, myself. I'm sure I'm missing some, Mary. But it was the 90s, and so that, if you didn't live here, you can't even imagine what this town was like back then, because it's nothing like it is now, for better or worse. But you know, we worked in warehouse. We were in the warehouse over here, where 2424 Gallery is. But Preston would, you know, pick up pieces of old cardboard, basically anything. You know, you can see it all encased in his work. And I had an old 40 Econoline, 1977, bright orange Econoline church bus that I took all the seats out. We would drive all over. We would go to South Carolina. There was this junkyard. We'd fill up my van full of stuff and bring it back to the studio. It was just a great time. You know, I cherish that time that we had together.
Deb, how do you remember that period? Anything you
I
wanna
wasn't
share?
here.
You weren't here?
I wasn't here.
No kidding. When did you move here?
20 years ago.
I'm halfway there.
I mean, I was invested in my job when I moved here. I still am. You know, I mean, it was like, you know, meeting the royalty when I came here. Like like meeting the people that were here before that laid all the groundwork, you know, Mary and Betsy and Marcus and Preston, and you know, it was like, oh, those are the people that are here. They're it. You know.
Yeah.
I think the panel is, it's kind of interesting because I think Mary met Preston first. And then I met Preston. And then you kind of came into his life, and then you never knew Preston. So you have a lot of different timelines of Preston's perspective.
Yeah, Lilipede, I was really moved by your recollection of seeing Preston's work as a child and like how much that opened things up for you in a certain way and not understanding our work, but.
Yeah, I had never really like been around collected art, you know, in a home before, like the Routon's house, and I think Genevieve's here, hi Dee. And so this piece in particular though just totally blew my mind, and then, you know, it always was like something that was on my mind, how can I find more of this work? And so I remember going to your house and you had a piece, so I go to certain friends' parents' houses and I was like, oh my god, okay, I know to look for that next time I'm here. And then it just kind of stuck with me, so here I am.
It's been so good to see Preston's work through Lily Kid's eyes, and thank you for helping me wear some.
Thank you.
And,
Maybe.
you know, to think of him as a practitioner, and a thinker, my God, was he a thinker, to his detriment, but I think there was just time then, and we were talking about the middle, late 90s, and what I always lament is how discoverable this town felt it was, and of course we were art students and had a kind of cushy situation there, but there was so much time to wonder, and it was like the country west of MLK, and that new building was. I wanted to ask Marcus, and I'm gonna ask Betsy sometime soon, a favorite studio memory of Preston, because I'm just gonna tell you mine. It's off topic, but we were on Louisville Road, 2.1 miles west of MLK, in a building owned by James Curtin then, and I walked out of the studio, and there was a Preston had a compound boat, which is a giant, hunter's thing, and a hay bale painted with a target on it, and it was just like that's of course of course Preston has a compound boat, and of course he's out there doing target practice. I suppose it's yeah, we can't lament. I mean, change happens, and this happens with a lot of cities, but there was just space to mess around, and ease about. Always bragged on how manageable and affordable Savannah was, and likely it is by contrast still. But I would just feel lucky to have been here, and to be shaped. I was 23 when I met Preston, and so he was a shaper of a lot of things. And I'm sorry I just spoke out of turn.
No, you're perfect. There's no out of turn.
I actually want to ask you a question, because I'm thinking of you as maybe a high school.
I was 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking about that, and having children of my own that have grown up with art, and I'm thinking, what a really amazing inauguration to the art world, being able as a child to just keep excavating and looking into the layers and the different amounts of, one can look at Preston's work and find nuances over and over and over again. And I mean nuances, like new things that you haven't seen before. And what an amazing sort of primer for an art career,
Yes, definitely. Definitely. And I think that it really made me have a desire to give voice to the artists at working galleries and wanting to support them and put them on a pedestal that allows other people to reach the work. So yeah, it's touched me in a big way.
It's a lovely thing.
It is a lovely thing. Well, I think that I wouldn't mind hearing some more stories. I think people are kind of aching to give some. I also want to open it up to the audience, because I think plenty of you out here probably have memories or thoughts or questions that you would like to have voiced, and I have I'm not necessarily in charge here.
Well, this space behind us, which is one of my all-time favorites. I remember Shelley Smith, who some of you know, she's on y'all's board.
Yeah.
Shelley, she ran a gallery, 97,
Athena?
97,
99 on Liberty? On Liberty.
70,
98, I think.
98.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the show, but she was showing a lot of local artists, and this piece was in one of her shows, and I remember walking in and seeing it. And some of you that are artists, you'll get this, but I was just mad. When you see something, you're like, I wanted to make that. And so I'm glad that this has survived all these years. It's always been one of my favorite pieces. But I have a vivid memory of walking into there. I can't tell you anything else that was on the walls, but this piece still
pulled that cushion off a chair that was just abandoned in Orleans Hall. It's where the Graduate Painter Studios were before, and now it's the gym, SCAD gym. And just wrapped it in polyester fiberglass resin with the word on it, and he showed it in critique, and we were all just like, I mean, I'm sort of this frustrated realist. My work doesn't, like, I was always complimented even when they hang out with me, because my work is not inventive as it is. But we had the same reaction. We were stupefied, and I think even Professor Chabot was too. God damn, it's right there. He's a genius.
It's a ready-made, but it's new. It's a poem. It's visceral. It's simple. Sculptural
And you
painter.
can hide it in
I
a
know.
torso.
Could Mary and Marcus maybe talk to his process, like how he made his work?
Yeah, I want to ask you. I never saw him. This work is fiberglass resin, and Preston would pour it on the studio floors, and then put things in it like hay or printed material, and then I'd make another layer, and I'd see ghosts of them, but I never saw him pull it up. Did you see one?
He would a lot of time work on concrete, so he would put stuff in it. So a lot of the textures that you're seeing is lifted off the floors. The ones that have the little look like polka dots, that's bubble wrap. Then he would lay a bubble wrap and then lift it off. So there's a lot of lifting, like he would. And then he would do collages of pieces. So I know there's a piece around here that's kind of pieced together from, he would break pieces in two and kind of meld those together. I mean, essentially Preston wasn't collages, is what all these are. He was just finding interesting ways to put, encapsulate things, do it, just create. And it's his, that's what's cool about Preston's work, like, it's his. There's nobody that has this look to it.
He talked about skin a lot. He wanted things to be like skin and have history and use and wounds and
They remind me of like artifacts from the Egyptian era. They have that sort of encapsulated, mummified look, but then they have also like the language and poetry, and it's like they're artifacts of a really witty, sensitive man.
I reckon. And he loved other people's history too, and their artifacts. He would come thrift stores with Marcus a lot, I bet, and old family photos.
Coloring books. Some of you may, if you've been here long enough, like I was really inspired by Preston in my early work, and I think you want to get more.
I never returned it. I've got a Marcus Kenney that I shouldn't
But
have.
hey, like my early
You sell it now.
90s or mid-90s work that I was doing was not objective. Like I wasn't including characters or anything. It was just these color-filled pieces that were made out of trash and different things. But like Preston was a direct influence for that. I came here to study photography. Well, that's good.
I think you blazed your trail.
But thanks to Preston.
Yeah, I think Preston's use of materials is so incredibly odd and interesting to me. I mean, like using toilet paper is hilarious to me. And he's like elevating it, but I don't feel like he's trying to elevate it. He's just simply using it. But
He's laughing at it.
yeah, it's
Sometimes it was a joke. My favorite, the day that I moved here, I was brought here by Marcus, and he was opening up a show here in Star Island, a house that they said was a gallery. Did they still?
No, I don't know what's.
That was the first time I got here. Preston was the show, and all that he was doing, and I'd never seen this. This was folding over toilet paper, and he was putting caviar rope.
It's hard.
And then the way it just killed itself and it created mine and swear. It was also a nice joke, toilet paper and cat.
That piece is on the other side of this wall, right? With the caviar?
Well, he used it a lot. He used caviar a lot.
Oh, he did? Oh, okay. That's funny.
The wonder, I think it's spelled caviar.
I don't think this one is.
Oil pasta.
Because that was grad school?
Yeah, it was.
He, I remember Preston had kind of quit making art for, I don't know, remember the year, the time frame, but he had kind of stopped making art for whatever reason. Artists do that, and go through periods. And he came over to the house, we were talking, I said, you know, there was a group of us, and I said, Preston, like, are you making art? He said, I never stopped making art, Marcus. It's called music now. I'm making music. Is that art to you? That was kind of our relationship. I was like, yeah, but you know what I meant. But then he eventually got back into it. I don't know how long the hiatus was, but
Yeah, he did. He had a small studio in his house on Henry
Yeah.
Street and started making the small collage work. And yeah, totally contrary. Very,
but we spent a lot of time playing music together. I mean, that's probably some of my best memories with Preston playing drums. It never sounded good, but Preston would get really frustrated.
all the time.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Jamie figuring I should have a chair here.
Oh, I'm sorry, jumping out of the office.
No, please.
And Jamie was there in the 90s with us.
Yeah. I was in and out, but that studio for the 5 layers. And then Preston and I lived next door to each other. And then we actually, when we disbanded from the Broad Street place, Preston got this place.
Yeah.
And I was in here for a few months with him, but we didn't really get anything cooking in here, or I didn't, I'm not sure what he was doing. But there's a whole row of little places that look like telephone operators, and I was just running around in those rooms, trying to tell him jokes, and we just argued a lot. It was great. There was a lot of arguing.
Half of my memories of Preston is fighting.
Sure enough.
Well, good. I'm glad I met somebody who was in one of these studios here. With
That
Preston.
one's a blur. The whole thing where there were 5 people and they each had a floor. And we made all
Wild.
kinds of stuff.
Like
When
how-
he
how
and I came here, it was like a little
Each floor was
weird.
5,000 square feet.
Each floor was 5,000 square feet.
Does anybody here remember that?
Everybody had
Yeah.
everybody had his drums up.
Oh my God.
Damon did a play there.
I will say the creative aspect of that time period was, do you wanna do a fashion show? Okay. Do you wanna do a play? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It was very open to kind of like whatever y'all wanted to do. It was cool to see.
How much was rent? It was free?
What?
How were 5 floors free? Who lived there?
Well, we shouldn't have been in there.
Okay, so you were just, were you spotting?
It's a different Savannah.
I know, but you were
Now, I knew, so.
Yeah, it was all Marcus got us in here from.
I mean, we had
Sorry,
openings.
He wanted us to show off the building a little bit.
I would trade paintings to
Have a studio.
anybody that would give me stuff. I traded for a car one time.
Oh,
I traded for studios.
There were a couple big events in there too, right?
Yeah,
I
lots of stuff
mean,
in there.
yeah.
Metropole had
Metropole, we had our closing party in there. We had, I mean, it was special.
I met somebody the other day that I just met, and they were saying that they remembered that after we, remember that window kind of gallery room we put in towards the end? And then, architectural students started doing thesis shows in there?
Yeah,
Somebody came up and said, oh, those thesis shows were great.
that's fun.
And that was right at the back end, but then we kept repurposing that building and turning it, like, doing window box stuff and thesis shows and plays, and it was fun.
I'm gonna open it up to anybody.
So this work is from what period? How many years and like maybe the dates?
Sort of, yeah, 98 to, maybe 2006 or 7, predominantly.
Aren't there a couple little pieces over here that are?
Later, yeah, thank you, and the teams, thank you. There is a whole lot more, and if anybody wants to see more of Preston Orr, I can chaperone you to the storage unit.
Mary, I want you to remind me of something. So my first home art show, when I did a group show, Preston was in it, and it was 1998, and it was my little house on 46th Street. And I don't remember how I met. I remember going to a studio, I remember picking the work, but must have been you. How did I meet him? And so I'm like,
I was trying to remember that.
I had his work for years in my house shows, and then he quit making art, to your point, and then I would bug him.
No,
and
he
would-
made music.
And he would say, I don't have anything for you.
Oh,
I'd say,
shoot,
okay. Okay, I was like, gosh, why can't I? I'm sitting
Maybe
here
for
trying to
Shelley
think of
Smith.
it. Maybe Shelley, yeah. Huh.
So you were doing art shows in your home.
Mhm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
We need more of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, I remember that.
Did them for a long time, yeah, I did, for a very long time. Mary was in, everybody was in.
That was like,
Mary, how did you end up with all this work?
I got,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mary,
right.
how did
you know, a cat burglar. We were very close, like, I just don't know how we were, there was a shorthand, we were just always kind of family. And,
They were best friends.
pretty
Yeah,
close.
they had a really intimate bond, and he trusted her implicitly, especially with regard to the things that were the most important to him. And
Yeah, and what has been said, it was true with us too, we had so many snips and so many, this and that, but, when Preston started showing up with heart trouble, and I remember him telling me in our 20s, oh yeah, we have bad hearts, and, I thought, you're just starring in your own miniseries, you're fine, and, but, he did have to have some stents and ablations and things, and one time when he was going in, and I would take him sometimes for his procedures or pick him up, he said, so I just want you to know my siblings should have my house and you should have my artwork. And the only thing to say to that is, of course, and it's been a really tender task, and I'm grateful for it, and I've gotten to know it in a new way, thanks to new eyes, and I'm very grateful that he thought it, in the end, thought enough of me to, he knew I'd keep it safe and dry, I think. But I've been a decent janitor.
I asked right before the show, because I was looking at, actually on the way here, I was thinking of, because Preston's house was always in progress, right? The house was never finished. There would be, something was always being excavated, like a ceiling was open, or a floor was done, or there was cement, or, cement counters being poured, or something was happening. So I asked Mary about, what about dusting all this stuff? Because you had, especially also it being in storage. And I said, what an intimate thing to have all this work and to look at it and to dust it. I thought, what an amazing, we were talking about printmaking, and when you wipe a plate, it's very intimate because you're looking at each little place of the plate, but cleaning and dusting the work is similar to that. And,
Yeah, well, these guys did a better job than I did. I had a magic eraser and a.
yeah, but tell them what else.
Oh, and Betsy Kane, this is for anyone who needs to clean the surface of paintings, told me about get a loaf of Wonder Bread, like the least healthy, whitest bread you can, and go over the surface.
Whiter than white. Or whiter than snow.
And you wouldn't believe, there was some soot on it.
Yeah.
That's okay. Get the secrets.
One,
Mary had interviewed, and I cleaned this bread, I was like.
house was
Yeah.
full.
I think
French
Preston
Stone
would
work.
have loved that.
I mean, huge,
So
significant.
too, and
Wonder Bread.
and of course he would ask you to take care of his.
Millions of
work.
dollars.
I think we all have, I mean, we all have the support and the interest in art southeast, my God. And Deb and, Marcus and Lily Kate all saw the work with me, among others, and Susan Laney, thank you for looking at the work, and everybody, you know, Deb helped me, measure and chronicle it a little bit, and, Squarespace helped me make a website. Which is not as hard as I thought it would.
Shout out to Squarespace.
One thing that really interests me when I was at the opening, someone said they remember some of these resin pieces hung in a ceiling at a
Alexander Hall.
okay, Alexander Hall, and there was like light coming through them, and so it gave them a
Oh,
whole
that's
nother dimension and a whole nother life, having them translucent and with light behind them.
Always
Do you-
plan.
That is that how did he mount these himself, or
He
did
did.
he?
He was
Okay.
a framer before he came to Savannah. He worked in a frame shop in Columbia and was able to frame his own work. So there's a support behind the fiberglass and then the molding around it. Those pieces, they were meant for Alexander Hall lecture room, and
They were up for years.
They were,
Yeah.
they were like the toilet paper.
They were like
squares.
these.
The red,
and a lot of
yeah.
hay. I think.
They hung, I mean, probably like 5 or 6 across, and then, I don't remember, do you
Nice
remember?
grid.
Did Dad buy?
It was a lot. SCAD commissioned it. This was a different SCAD as well. Different
Yeah.
Savannah, different SCAD, so that was a huge deal. Huge deal. And I remember running up to Preston like a crazy person on the street when we got the job. He just
Sure
looked
enough.
at me like,
Do you
He
think
was wanting
does
to buy a
Scott still
motorcycle
have
for money.
those?
huh?
Do they still have those? or
I'm sure they
just-
have them, but they took it down. They renovated that.
That
building.
auditorium doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
And as far as I know, you can correct me, Preston never did his thesis. Went to grad school
We
with
watched
SCAD
it.
and refused to write a paper.
I know.
Never
Used
did.
to write a
He
paper.
walked at graduation and had a diploma, but, no, on principle, he would not turn in
No.
the thesis.
Never do it. You brought it up.
Right.
You did.
Lisa, okay, young, if we get your hand up.
Mary mentioned that you called him a thinker. And so I was kind of wondering, maybe from all of you, like what was on the top of his mind with most of his work in relation to what he was exploring? Did he talk about, how did he talk about ideas? What do you remember? Was there an obsessive moment? Was there something he was really into? What was he exploring in terms of ideas that you remember?
He brought up childhood a lot, and I think, some like artists like Henry Darger mattered a lot to him, and, Daniel Johnston, and Cy Twombly, we talked about.
Size, Motherwell.
And I think, I just always come back to process. He just wanted to use things, and, he was a good formalist too. I mean, these are so beautifully designed. And I think he liked the contrast of something so precious and, you know, literally worth its weight in gold, like caviar, to be next to a comic book or something, you know. Toilet paper, pardon me. I guess I bet you can say more about that than I can.
Well, I know he also liked language, so if you look at most of these pieces, and he would make up words, if I remember correctly. Like, he would just have to come up with his words that mix together. And, I think when he was doing the toilet paper, he thought of them kind of as like Sanskrit or some kind of alphabet.
Yeah, let's
I
have
mean,
language.
that's what I remember.
He tortured himself. I mean, we all did. We just thought we were so important. But
Do you have something to say about this?
Yeah, Preston and I talked a lot, especially with Mary the Music thing again. He talked a lot about he was obsessed with sonic youth, that they would all detune their guitars, and so they could continue playing different versions of the same song constantly without having to change guitars, or they could change it and it wouldn't make any difference. I talk about that a lot, and I can see that.
Now, music was his, I guess, you got Preston,
Constant.
that was his
Constant.
love. So he was definitely, he always had a drum kit in his studio, and we'd go to the studio and just make noise, but then he would get mad at everybody. Nobody could make any sense of what we were doing, and everybody would just leave.
I have a recording of his called Pagoda, where he makes music and vocalizes.
Yeah.
I wanted to just say, as someone that wasn't talking to him about making his art, but being his friend, and when you're talking about making up words, I think of Preston as a wordsmith, and I think about the couple times. It's one of my favorite memories of Preston is being at your house and playing dictionary. And so and I was thinking about that as I every time I've been around the room, I think about the joy that he finds in the abstraction of these words, where they could play forwards and backwards in different ways. The game Dictionary, if that's the name of it, is when you have a dictionary and you pass it around and you try to fool the other people. You make up
Fake definition.
the definition of a word that people might not know, and so you have to try to fool the other people that the word patupida, it actually means what you tell them it means, anyway, that's the fun of this work. Like I can't separate the wit from the work.
Preston's definition was often a rare African bird. But at least Jay's question's so good, and I think that, I think he would have liked to have thought less. And I remember being at Gallery Espresso with him, and he pointed towards, there was a dog there, and he's like, I just want to be that dog. I think he was a little, he was so very thoughtful and so very sensitive, and probably that shows up in this.
I think what definitely shows up for me in the work is that there is so much humor in it, but it's very serious at the same time. It's not a joke one-off thing. It's something that he's taking very, very seriously. But there's a lot of lightness in it, and I think I'm so glad to learn about what he thought about the toilet paper and the caviar and putting those together. I think that's important to know. I like that.
Contrast.
Yeah.
Speaking to his process, to me, they look so cumulative. Did he work on a singular piece to completion? Were they working concurrently? Can you speak a little to the process? Did he focus on a singular piece and see that to fruition, or was he working on them? Because they just do seem so, cumulative.
He would work on multiple pieces, like the toilet paper that he would spray paint. That's what that paint is. He would spray paint, just roll up toilet paper, just kind of go over it like Jackson Pollock spray painting. And then he would begin to make, a single piece out of all the things that he had made. So, but I remember him working on several pieces at a time. I mean, depending on the space, the studio, I know at the end he was doing a lot of smaller stuff because he was working out of his house, but back when, we were able to have warehouses and stuff, he was doing really multiple pieces.
The summer he made the Alexander Hall installation, he had all of Orleans Hall.
Yeah, that was so cool.
And he could use the pool at what had been the
O House.
O House, which
The pool?
was, before that was a And
It was a-
motel or something.
Yeah, and then it was, where Preston Studio was, JC Lewis, wasn't it the old garage, JC Lewis garage?
Was it a JC Blues
I
garage?
think so. Is there anybody in here?
What do you mean he used the pool? Like he used the bottom, like he went into the pool and used it like a floor?
Denise Falk, the chair of the painting department, said that, I've got a grad student working on an installation for Alexander Hall. So I'm gonna give him a key to the pool, and he, I mean, we didn't have air or heat in that building, barely bathrooms, and so he would go, dunk himself every day.
Oh, it had water in it.
There were kids in it, that was the
Okay,
original.
I thought it was like a studio, like an empty pool, like a studio. I wasn't understanding, okay.
Yeah, that was the original dorm.
Jackie Black, I saw you.
Yeah, I just have a question to Mary and all the artists up on the panel. It seems like Preston was very prolific. You say he has a lot more of his work. And I'm interested in how good was he as a editor of his own work. I think it's something artists struggle with, maybe not necessarily struggle, but could be better at. To self-edit, or did he have help editing? Did he throw stuff out? Did he look at it and say, "Oh, this is crap"? That kind of thing. Mary, what do you remember about that? And why do you have so many work? I mean, he was really prolific?
Yeah, I mean, it's when he died in 2022, it was roughly 25 years of work off and on, and he pretty much did not exhibit for a lot of those years. Yeah. And I just feel like I haven't. What a good question. I don't remember him being unsure of himself. I really don't. I don't remember him saying anything like, "I just can't get this one right," or that I've got to edit this down or change this. I didn't hear it, but maybe somebody else did.
No, I think, he went through, this era, those 90s and early 2000s, like, I thought the whole town was very prolific. That's when Savannah was made. The Savannah we're all enjoying today was created during those early years, right, Marilyn? And so, yeah, all artists have trouble editing, but Preston didn't exhibit past a certain time. He just stopped exhibiting, so he never had to edit. He just wasn't interested in that. I know you've got a question.
I do have a question. You talked about the other artists he was influenced by that weren't in Savannah. Did he ever travel to see other artists, or did he ever talk about leaving Savannah or being involved in an art scene anywhere else?
Before he came to Savannah, he had spent a session at SVA in New York, and but after that, I don't remember. We went to Toronto once for the College Art Association, trying to get hired. But other than that, he found inspiration. I mean, it was just like, look down and he would find inspiration, or look up, he would find inspiration. But I have another story, I'm sorry. He had a painting. He ran out of money in New York that time when he was in SVA, and had to get to the airport for a flight, and got in a taxi, and just knowing he didn't have the money, and got to LaGuardia or JFK or whatever, and gave and offered the cab driver a painting. And the cab driver was thrilled to have it. And he said,
Really?
"I'm sorry, this is what I have. I wish I had more to give you." And the cab driver said, "I'm already rich."
Oh, wow. That's a great story.
Again, different time period. So everything we're talking about is free.
Right.
I was thinking about the dictionary game. I was like, that's what old people used to do. Candy Crush. But this is, I think, one thing we haven't discussed about Preston is that he was an avid kayak.
That's what I was
He did. I remember the happiest I've ever seen Preston is when he won the lottery to go kayak to Grand Canyon. And he looked forward to that. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the way he discovered this process with the fiberglass was that he fixed his kayaks with, that
Sure
So much sense.
Yeah, I was like, I'm so glad you brought it.
yeah, I mean, we haven't, I just thought about it, but, he loved kayaking and did kayaking tours around,
What's Savannah Canoe and Kayaking?
Savannah Canoe and Kayaking.
Was he kayaking like when he came to Savannah? Because I
Yeah.
remember that he was doing it a ton later
It
on.
was like, I
but
didn't even know what a kayak was.
I knew what a canoe was.
The Green River,
Yeah,
right?
he was.
And it's South Carolina, and I think where he grew up, maybe Jamie knows too, but where he was coming from and.
Yeah, they
like,
were kayaking.
He told me a lot of stories about kayaking, because we shared the outdoor interest.
That's how he got into the red fiberglass. Was fixing kayaks.
The Saluda River.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Mary, you had told me one time that you felt that the Grand Canyon trip was really a difficult trip, and that he came back.
I think it's when he found out he was sick, his
Yeah, he
endurance.
just really had a hard
I
time.
mean,
after.
had a hard time on the plane, and it started getting, checked out. We found out, he had blockages. And, but for anyone who knew him or who didn't, the end of his life was pretty rosy, I really wanna say. He had, a really good stretch, and was working on his house, days before he died, painting his house.
He borrowed my
Sprayer.
Graco spray gun, my big portable spray mesh thing, and my handheld one. He was up on the third story on this ladder, painting the outside of this enormous big old rundown house that he loved so much.
One detail of that house, which I think people would appreciate, was, you have the peephole in the door. He made his own, but with like yellow resin. I wonder if you got that.
Oh, it's very, changed, but, and there were the
So
same
I
thing.
always loved, he would just do, you would be in his house and you'd just see some little detail that, most people would have just gotten rid of, that he would, acknowledge it. And I think
When he died, he had, clearly been working outside on his house.
That week.
Yeah,
That
and
day,
had
Yeah, like the day before.
And in front of Preston was a bowl of cherry stems. So let's all go that way and have a bowl of cherries and go.
Well, I wanna just, go ahead.
Well, I just wanna say, Preston did have a funeral, a good bit, a few months after he died. But we've kind of discussed it, it wasn't the funeral that we thought Preston would want. Sorry, any families here, but, I feel like this is more fitting way to honor Preston.
Yeah, it's,
So thank you all.
Kenney,
Yeah.
it's so good to have this kind of, renewed and restored interest in, somebody dear to us. There's a question.
So what's the plan going forward with his works? Are you starting a foundation?
wish I
Is it
knew.
gonna wrap it up?
No, but he didn't pick the most savvy legacy maker, but, I hope it gets seen more, and, I think there's some help that way. Yeah.
How many pieces do you think you have there?
120.
I'd say 80.
50, 80?
I mean, a lot of little work. And the chess pieces, the sculptures that we haven't talked about, which were epoxy resin, and he would cast things in them to make chess sets and make his own boards.
The kind of funeral party at the kayak center
Right.
was pretty fabulous.
That was, I was talking about the other one.
And, you know, all the kayaks were everywhere, and his art was hung all the way around the room, and people got up and spoke, and that was pretty sweet.
I was talking about the one at the funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, that one was the one that counted,
Yeah.
I wanted
the
to
one with
mention
the kayak.
Nigel and Kristen did a beautiful thing that day.
Yeah.
And Nigel and Kristen gave a couple pieces for the show too.
One of the ones on the back.
Gorgeous work. Well, let's end it there. That was a really nice kind of place to stop. I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you all for sharing. Really. If anybody wants to buy any of Marion's,